Good morning. For those of you that are watching this either live or close to the time of the recording of this, it is Thanksgiving Day 2022, and it is beautiful. Look at this, the mist and all the muted colors of a misty morning. Look at this. It's just a beautiful, beautiful sunrise. Wow, it's just beautiful. The lake is like glass. Look, not even a ripple. It is perfectly still. Makes my peacemaker heart just happy. And that's how my mind feels today. It feels very peaceful and leaning into the faith of love. And I'm going to talk about Hebrews chapter 11 this morning. And Paul, or the author, goes through a whole list of examples of people who throughout at least the Jewish tradition and the Bible, of some really great examples of people that lived by faith. And faith, he starts off with a definition. Faith is the assurance that something that has not happened yet will happen, and you believe and you move in that direction. Even when it might not seem possible, you do the things and you live in faith towards the unseen, unhappened. You move towards the promise of that, and it goes through, Cain and Abel who had greater faith, Jacob, Joseph, Noah, Moses, Joseph, went through Rahab, went through a whole list. And then even mentioned, and there's so many more to count, and it gave us just a small summary of several stories. And he said, even all of these great examples, the walls of Jericho falling down, Abraham getting delivered from sacrificing his son Isaac, but the willingness and the faith to do it, if that's what he was calling God to do. All these big acts and examples of faith in this tradition of the Bible. And then he ends with, but none of these is getting the promise of what we're being asked to have faith in. This was the old covenant. And so all these people still, while they were alive, still had to meet all the regulations, the law. They lived by the law. They didn't have freedom, the freedom that love and the new covenant brings, while still living. But again, back to faith, and even chapter 10, but it requires patient endurance. It requires belief, the first, it's a thought, I understand that this thing out here that seems impossible might now be possible. I've had the thought, I start to believe the thought, and then I start walking towards it in faith. Start doing some things, even though it might not be what I really want to do, but I'm going to have faith and trust that it will happen, that I will have the thing that I'm walking towards. Even the parting of the Red Sea was an example. So many unbelievable examples in the Bible. But with the second covenant and the New Testament, we get this revelation of love and what it means to, while you're alive and living, know that you are fully loved. There's nothing you can do to earn it. You can't earn it. You don't deserve it, but you do deserve it because you're a creation of God. Like, this is like getting rid of the human logic, the survival brain, the ego that has us living. It's the ego and the survival brain. When that's in charge, we naturally live a more legalistic life. We love each other as humans deeply, but with strings attached. We have to take vows and promises, and if those things are broken, then, we no longer love. Like, love is conditional. God's love, and what Jesus came and role modeled and introduced to us, was a whole new paradigm. It was a whole new way. Like, if you believe that it's possible that you as a human can love in this way, it takes a lot of faith, a lot of belief, a lot of patience, a lot of hope to start acting in a way that you think love would have you act, agape love versus your version of love, and looking at people in a new way. But just like any change process, it requires faith, because it's like, I don't know, I don't really feel this right now. I don't want to do this, which is why Paul has constantly talked, and not just Paul, but all the disciples, all the Gospels, Jesus, all talk about this requires self-discipline. Faith requires self-discipline. It's not an airy-fairy, like, oh, I'll just believe it and it's just going to magically happen. That is not faith. That is not belief. All of these things require action and doing things against probably what you really want to do in the moment, your short-term, impulsive, survival, critter brain, lizard brain, whatever you call it, wants to do. And going in a new direction that's focused more on the big picture, the long term, and also realizes the oneness of humanity, the oneness of creation itself, that it is all energy, and we're a manifestation of it. And we see ourselves as individual, and we are individual, just like we have individual blood cells that we can isolate, and we can even isolate water drops. But then when you put it together, it's a body of water, it's an ocean, it's a lake, it's a river, it's a vessel of blood, like, that all works together. That's the way we humans are, and all of creation. And yet, because we have individual bodies and we have self-awareness and consciousness and all of this, we don't see it. It takes faith to see it. When you start to academically get it, and then you're like, but I don't know, the ego is still in there that wants a voice, an individual voice, and its own freedom, like complete freedom. That's why complete freedom without restraint and without love is chaos. Love with borders, with understanding, with self-discipline is order. It's interesting that the word border and order just have one. It's a body with order, a B, border, and boundaries. And love even requires us to have healthy boundaries as individuals, so that we're not over in somebody else's lane, wagging our finger in life. We're not letting them live their own life. We're like, hey, I know the one true God, and I know the one true way, and you're not doing what I'm telling you to do. We get ourselves in little g God. That's the ego. It should be I go. I go, me go. Yeah. So we get in other people's way, and then we get off of our own path, and then we're not loving, and in trying to be loving and help other people be saved, we're killing them. We're killing ourselves. We're not saving anybody. And yet we believe this counterfeit. And this is why we need this is really supposed to be the purpose of the church, and mature believers that really come alongside those of us that are newer, that have the faith, but we haven't fully walked it out yet. We're not there yet. And yet we've got a lot of the blind leading the blind in the world, in churches. And not in just like Christian churches, but in lots of religions and faith. There are people that think they've got it, and they might have some of it, and they're not there yet, and then they're going around and trying to tell other people. And I might even be in that phase, right? So take what I say with a grain of salt. Like, I do think I'm academically getting it, but I haven't fully walked it out yet. So be careful of what I'm saying. Like, do your own. We each have our own walk of faith and our own understanding, and have to read the text, and even read it intelligently and deeply, and read between the lines, not just words and literally what they say. These stories are important and metaphorical and conceptual. You got to get to the heart of the matter, which is love. And then you've got to start living, having faith in love, which means you start living in love. People go around and throw that faith word around as if it's just something they just sit there and do. And again, I love that James is right on the heel of this. One of my favorite books of the Bible. Faith is active. It means you are walking your effing talk. That wasn't very nice, was it? Which is hard. It requires belief, faith, hope, knowing, with patient endurance, self-discipline, knowing that if I keep acting this way and behaving this way, I will be transformed. If I complete the process, if I hang in there long enough. And that's where a lot of people don't do it. And I don't have time today because I think I've already gone on long enough, but I have an example in nature, if we look at it, especially for what the human transformation looks like in the cycle and what to expect as you're in the transformation process, and a timeline and what it really takes. And we humans, especially in our modern age of quick fixes and hacks and, all of this, and we are not patient. So a lot of people maybe make some minor changes, have some short-term success, but the only way they can maintain it is through the willpower and through rules and regulations, versus letting it be a heart change and an identity change from within, where it's just the natural outflow. All right, that's enough. So have faith in God's love, in the message that Jesus came to show and role model, and start living in that way, even when it feels weird, uncomfortable, unnatural, impossible. Do it anyway. Have faith. And slowly but surely, step by step, just like I've gotten from way over there to here, you'll get there. You'll get there. I'm having faith in that. All right. Happy Thanksgiving, or whatever day it is. And I will see you tomorrow with Hebrews chapter 12. Rise and shine.